Go Long founder and golongtd.com. Check it out, Mr. Tyler Dunne. How we doing, Ty? How things going?
Ryan, what's up, my man? Great to hear your voice. How have you been?
I'm good. We're having a good time here. I get to sit in this chair for a few days, and especially during a time when football is on the run here, on the rise. One of the bigger questions I had about this Buffalo Bills team, and I know you cover all of the NFL, but in particular with the Bills, how it was addressed a year ago, right? I mean, I think people hem and hawed around the decision-making by the coaching staff, and it really showed the pressure and stress they were under in that moment and some of the decision-making that went into it to lose that game, to how they were going to address it. How have they addressed it inside that locker room? Because they really haven't talked about it publicly, but it had to be addressed at some point. Otherwise, they were going to be in just this limbo heading into this next season.
You just nailed it. It remains to be seen how they respond to it. And I think, there's three ways to look at it. And number one, I think that the fans, the hardworking, people here of Western New York deserved some type of explanation for one of the biggest meltdowns in sports history. And then, us in the media, we're always trying to know what in the heck went down. But that third group, the players themselves, the coaches themselves, the employees of the Buffalo Bills internally, the 48 hours after that game and talking to players and coaches and people in and around the team, they didn't really know either. They were stunned. We're talking starters, backups, coaches. It surprised them that the season ended so abruptly. And look, part of it is the way an NFL season ends. You're not going to all reconvene in the film room the next day and break down, what went right, what went wrong. You clean up your locker and you're out of there. But it still was really strange. I mean, that's kind of the word that just kept coming up. It was weird. It was strange. It was odd that it just kind of ended and people just kind of went about their merry way. And, yeah, Sean McDermott, he stuck to his line. I mean, he stuck to execution in his press conference after the game. He stuck to execution at his final press conference and just kind of chose to not really get into any details. That's kind of par for the course for him as the head coach. So that's his prerogative. I mean, you played in the NFL, Ryan, and now you cover the league and cover the gamut. You hear that word, usually it means player error. It's the coaches putting it on the players that, hey, they weren't able to execute, but I guess it's broad enough that you can kind of just skate by and not really explain what happened.
Yeah, it's been interesting, and I've been really interested to see how they respond and handle it. Shirley Camp looks like it's going full go. Josh Allen, everybody seems healthy and energized. They are, I think, the reigning favorite in Las Vegas to win the Super Bowl this year. They are one of my favorites. One of the bigger questions, what does this team look like post Brian Daboll, right? He moves on to the New York Jets. The best thing I think that I thought they did is they stayed in-house, right? Ken Dorsey gets elevated to offensive coordinator. He's been Josh Allen's quarterback coach for the last few years. He is going to make the offense his own, but I think that's probably a really good sign for Bills fans out there that we're going to see a lot of the same exciting offense with the Bills with Ken Dorsey at the helm.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping, that it's just seamless and that they're going to keep a lot of this, basically all the same terminology and the same plan of attack moving to Ken Dorsey. And it's a fun offense. I mean, you've got an MVP frontrunner in Josh Allen, and I think that's part of the frustration, right, and how that last season ended. You had a quarterback who was just feeling it. I mean, I don't really know what team, what defense, what scheme would have stopped Josh Allen last season the way he was playing. So, you hope he picks up where he left off, and I think that Isaiah McKenzie in the slot is going to be playing a huge role. He's always kind of been there. They just haven't really used him. So he steps into that role that Cole Beasley playing before. I think Gabe Davis is a rising star that could become a full-fledged star very, very soon. And Stephon Diggs is always going to demand attention. So I think where it gets interesting, though, there was some friction between McDermott and Daboll toward the end of last season on how much to run the ball, kind of like, that balance between run and pass. And what happens this year, with Ken Dorsey? Does he kind of give in to wanting to run the ball more and have a little bit more balance, or what I think you should do when you have Josh Allen, you keep your foot just slammed against that gas pedal and you just let him do his thing, running the ball, throwing the ball, and just go that route. So nothing really matters right now for the Bills in August. nothing matters in September, October, November. I mean, this is a team that is in major Super Bowl or bust mode, and I mean that in all the best reasons. When's the last time a Bills team was in Super Bowl or bust mode? I mean, it was, I don't know, me and my friends were probably 2-3 years old at the time.
Yeah, it was Jim Kelly's run, and it was Thurman Thomas's run when they were going to 4 consecutive Super Bowls, really, right? Yeah. I mean, that was the place. What do you think? Do you think that inside that facility they like because of how people are perceiving them to be this year, they like that? Or is this something that this team, having that moniker on them as Super Bowl or bust, may not be able to handle the pressure?
That's where the psychology of the team gets so interesting, because I think they got to this point by really leaning into that underdog role. I mean, you're talking 17 years without this team even making the playoffs. The 4 Super Bowl losses before that. You sprinkle in a little Music City Miracle. You sprinkle in a little Rob Johnson, Doug Flutie quarterback controversy. It's been, taking dark turn after dark turn. And so Sean McDermott comes in and they fumigate the building. They put in, their culture, their way of doing things. Everything is so detail-oriented where it's down to a T if it's May 17th, let alone October or November. So all that stuff is good, but you're not the underdog anymore. I mean, you're the favorite. You've got the target on your back. You've got the MVP favorite. You have all these weapons. You signed Von Miller. It is, I didn't think anything less than the Super Bowl probably is a disappointment in a loaded AFC. I think they'll handle it well. Even though last season ended so abruptly and the head coach really didn't take accountability in the moment, privately or publicly, I think that every year genuinely is a new year. They lost some players, they added some players, and this does seem like a team in a really good headspace overall. And you can be in a really good headspace when you have the quarterback you do. I mean, he can make a lot of problems disappear. As long as Josh Allen is out there, they should be the Super Bowl favorite. Absolutely.
Moving around the NFL a little bit, right? The Cincinnati, we were just talking about the AFC North and how interesting it is, especially with the Deshaun Watson news that's going to come down in a few days in Cleveland. But, Cincinnati, for an offseason where they played in a Super Bowl and were really a couple plays away from possibly being champions, there really hasn't been much talked about this Bengals team. And I feel like that's a good thing. When it's kind of quiet and guys are just going about their business, when big splashes are made, I think people may be trying too hard. What's been your takeaway from this Bengals team and what the offensive offseason has presented for them heading into year 3 under Joe Burrow?
I totally agree with you. It stuns me that we're not talking about this team and this quarterback more. I mean, probably a lot of it is the fact that Joe Burrow just had the appendectomy, and part of it is history. The last 3 decades, I believe, or close to 3 decades, only one Super Bowl loser was able to get back to the game the next year, and that was the Patriots with Tom Brady. So you just don't see it. I mean, the Super Bowl hangover is a very, very real thing. But I think it's different here because this is a team that didn't expect anything last year. I mean, they weren't thinking playoffs. They're not thinking Super Bowl. They're just hoping to be relevant, and they're kind of signing cast-off players, right? Like Mike Hilton and Eli Apple, and they're just hoping for the best. And as it turns out, Joe Burrow is a star. Every young quarterback seems to be skittish and unsure of themselves and afraid of getting hit and not really sure how they're processing defenses. Well, Joe Burrow from day one, he's processing like he's been in the league for a decade. So you have that. You have the rapport with Jamar Chase. I mean, they're making plays out there like they're a couple of veterans. Got that 49ers play, right, where Jamar Chase is running one direction in the end zone, back line, and Burrow throws it the other direction, and just they both know he's got to get to that pylon. That kind of stuff is rare. I think that this is a team that can get back to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl because they've got all the ingredients. They're flying under the radar, and that's a gnarly secondary, man. I spent some time with those DBs last week in Cincinnati, and out of any defense in the AFC, I think that group is most equipped to have a puncher's chance in these shootouts.
The news around Mekhi Becton a couple days ago, I think is has been more devastating than I think I would have assumed. They thought that he was going to be a big part of that anchored offensive line for Zach Wilson in year 2. How do you think they address that issue and move forward this season?
That's a huge blow. I mean, what an offseason for Becton to go from being out of shape and boy, he caught a lot of flack, a lot of criticism, a lot of it justified, and seemed to get himself to a really good spot for training camp and was really busting butt. I mean, this is the kind of player that I think Robert Saleh, like that's exactly what he's looking for, right? To turn that franchise around is, here's a guy with a ton of talent, a big lineman that you want to run behind, that you want to protect your quarterback, and he turns it around. He buys into what you're building, and then this happens. It's heartbreaking for him, and it's a huge blow to the team. And I think big picture, though, I think the Jets are heading in the right direction. Like, I don't think this is a team that's going to be making the playoffs or competing for Super Bowls anytime soon, but you just hear Robert Saleh talk at the press conference that he had out of that injury, and you can see why guys want to play for him. It's real. It's authentic. It's passionate. It's not fake. He's not standing there and just reading off a teleprompter like so many head coaches do. I mean, they're so robotic in that setting. I mean, you could just see the passion out of this guy, and that stuff matters. I mean, football isn't played on a spreadsheet. It's an emotional game, and you got to somehow squeeze every ounce of potential and maximize the potential out of your guys. I think that Robert Saleh did it in San Francisco as a defensive coordinator, and he's going to do it there with the Jets because Joe Douglas also had himself one hell of a draft. They might have found 4 starters in this past draft. The Jets are going the right direction.
All right, so Tyler Dunne, Go Long founder. You can catch him at golongtd.com. Joining us now, NFL writer. All right, so we all know who the probable favorites are, what people are thinking, and stuff like that. Is there a team a la the Cincinnati Bengals who don't make the playoffs, not even close the year before? Is there a team out there this year that you've watched and seen the improvement with, get to a place where they could surprise and be a playoff contender come playoff time?
Right. We shouldn't take this hook, line, and sinker because we've done it before. I know it. The Miami Dolphins, they go out and they pay a Mike Wallace, they pay an Ndamukong Suh, they go back to Dante Culpepper. I mean, since Dan Marino retired basically in '99, I think they made the playoffs next year, but they haven't won a playoff game since then. It's been a long time, and hey, the no state income tax, the weather, the opportunities down there, it attracts a lot of free agents. I mean, a lot of really good players have gone there, and it just hasn't worked out. I think it's okay to take the bait this offseason. I really do. I think that there is a formula there for the Dolphins between a coach, a play caller, and Mike McDaniel, who is brilliant. I mean, he's going to scheme up all of this talent, all of this speed in ways that we can't even imagine. I mean, you had the 2 fastest players in the NFL, Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, like literally the fastest next-gen stats, and Chase Edmonds, who was unbelievably dynamic with Arizona last year before his ankle injury, and Jalen Waddle, who all he did was go for 100 and 1,000 yards as a rookie, and an improved offensive line. I know Terron Armstead's been hurt, but if he's out there, he's maybe the best tackle in the game. Connor Williams helps, and we're getting to the quarterback. I get it. There's questions about Tua Tagovailoa, rightfully so, but he was in basically the worst possible situation before. He's in basically the best possible situation now. I think that Miami absolutely could surprise a lot of people this season and get into the playoffs and maybe even win some games.
Wow. Excited to see how this all plays out. If you're a Dolphins fan, you got to love hearing what Tyler Dunne has to say. Tyler, hey, thanks for taking the time today. It's always good to talk to you. Can't wait to do it again. Appreciate your time.
Any day, anytime, Ryan. Thanks so much, and love checking it out on the show.
All right. Tyler Dunne, everybody. golongtd.com.